Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to Galactic Hood Buddha. My name is Miladies, your spirit shifter here, guiding you on your journey towards self-awareness. And I am so happy to be back with Wisdom Wednesday, having our first guest here, Juju. We're going to call her Julianna by her government name. And we'll share a little bit more of what she's doing here, what she's going to talk about. For the most part, I want to always encourage you guys to get the self-care calendar that is for you over at Galactic Hood Buddha on Buy Me a Coffee every month for free to get yourself together. And Wisdom Wednesday is here to provide you with people who have expertise in their field, whichever field that may be. I'm bringing a bunch of people on here. For example, Juliana here is going to be speaking to us about her experience with divination, her spiritual growth, as well as what she adds to enhance her spiritual practices. I am definitely going to be mentioning how I met her in a few, but for the most part, if any of you would like to connect with her, she's going to be saying her, I'm looking this way because my screen is that way for those of you who are on YouTube. I am going to let her say her handle now in the morning, in the beginning of the show, and then at the end as well, so you guys can start following her. So, Juliana, talk to me.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. Yeah, my name is Julianna, Juju the Medium, Julianna Marcelina. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Juju the Medium.
Yes, and I'm honored to have met you prior to actually getting to know you. And let's talk about that real quick. So, I am an astrologer. I'm a self-taught astrologer, and I decided to create a beginner's course for astrology. And Juju was one of the participants in the class, which made it really fun because I found out she was a Gemini, and I have a Gemini moon, so that kind of like let us click a little bit easier than a lot of other people. That group was very small but very intense, as well as the lessons were there for everybody, including myself, with learning how to deal with a projector. So that's how I met her, literally a year ago. So, and from that point, you don't really tell people, hey, follow me on social media. If you don't really know if you want to really like connect with them, even though, yes, she was taking a course, it doesn't mean that she wants to literally be my friend and things like that. However, I did end up getting her social media handle. And when I found her on TikTok, baby, I was like, hello, wow, what an inspiration. Her amazing shadow work practices and her tips are really what we need, and what gravitated me to her as well, because it's kind of hard to talk about the dark side, and she masters that. So I'm going to go ahead and basically start off with a question to get her started. What was the root cause of you beginning to dive into spirituality?
I think, like a lot of people, it came from me from a place of grief. I had lost somebody very important to me at a very young, influential age. And I just needed something. I needed to connect. And I had an experience where I was able to connect with them so personally and so deeply. And I did not ever believe that that was real. And for the longest time, I shut myself off. And for whatever reason, one day I had sat with a spiritual group and she had come through. And the main message of it all, aside from the closure aspect, was you should be on the other side of these readings. And for me, I was like, huh, that's really interesting because that's probably one of my biggest fears, but that's also one of my biggest strengths that has followed me throughout my lifetime. So for me, that was the kicker that I just had a flip go off in my brain like, okay, like we're done. We're done being scared. We're done shying away. Like, let's just get the foundation at least. Let's just start there. So then that night, I actually wound up signing up for intuitive development classes and started that pretty immediately and intensely. So yeah, it was a really wild, like really quick journey though for that.
I for those that know me, I'm really big on dates and years because I mean, as you know, with astrology, the years really are monument for us. So, do you happen? Excuse me. Whew, do you happen to know what year these awakenings happened for you? If you don't mind sharing.
So when I had first lost, it was my cousin who I had lost. So when I first lost her was 2014. So spring of 2014.
Mhm.
Um, it was like my senior year in high school. I was about to leave college, about to leave for college. It was like my first real big relationship. So a lot of things going on in my life. And then the bigger, like when I started doing developmental courses, I believe that was, I would like to say 2019, 2020.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
All right. And starting from there, I know you said one of the things that you also tapped into was the cards, right? So how did the
Hmm.
oracle cards come up to you, or is it oracle or tarot?
So I have tarot, never opened up the deck. Never have looked, never have felt called to it. I'm like, oh, these cards are pretty. So they've always sat on my shelf. And then while I was doing these development courses, we got into different forms of divination. Initially, I had really gotten into runes, Celtic runes, which
Mhm,
for me was so different. I had never seen anybody do it before. I didn't need to that's how I am. I'm very like pioneer. Like I need to be the first to do it. I need to figure it out. I don't want to Google it. I don't want always a teacher. Like for me, intuition is such a big role of that.
mhm,
And within runes was the first time that I felt it. And it was also the first time I was connecting more to my father's side of the family, the Celtic side, the Irish side. Because on my mother's side, we're very Italian, Puerto Rican. On my dad's side, we're very Irish and German. So two different waves of life for sure. And it was the first time that everything was kind of clicking. I had always experienced spirituality on my mother's side. I had never seen it on my father's side. So
mhm.
the two worlds were kind of coming together and everything was like making sense for me. So with that, I felt comfortable exploring different forms of divination. And that's when I found I was searching for weeks on end for the deck that was like going to call out for me. And I found it and I bought it. And it's still my favorite deck to this whole entire day. It is absolutely the best.
Wow, wow. I want to go back to a message that you said, but didn't really know you said it.
Mhm.
Working with your parental mother and father side of the spiritual aspect, right? A lot of us look at our ancestors, but I do feel that many gear more towards their mothers. And I don't know if that's because majority of us may have been probably raised by our mothers, or things like that, or just that maternal instinct that obviously we come from the womb that kind of makes us go that route. But that's something that I major on when I'm conducting some type of healing. I pull in both sides because I do feel that, I mean, they're a balance of who I am, right? So I'm happy
Mhm.
that you did mention that you were able to explore your mother's side, but then now adding your father's side made you feel a little bit more whole, which is what we're looking for. I appreciate
Yeah,
you mentioning that.
I th- I think because so much of it, even thinking back to years and years and years and like witchcraft and witch trial days, it is inherently feminine, right? Feminine doesn't mean male or female, right? That energy is just inherently feminine within that energy. Um, and I feel like a lot of people neglect the masculine side, which part of my journey has been really finding the balance of the two. Again, I'm a Gemini. I've got lots of sides to work with, but balancing those out and finding balance within myself has made me and made like my roles and my path a lot clearer.
Mhm.
Right? I still can't see the full path, but
Right.
the road ahead is clearer the more that I open that up. And again, pairing my mother and my father's family, those energies have just been like so beneficial within my journey.
I'm so excited to hear a little bit more.
Yeah.
When it comes to we spoke about the oracles, and that's how you got into it. was that what got you deeper into your shadow work, or how did the shadow work come in and come out? So right, come into your life and come out into the world. Because one thing is to work on your shadow on your own. The next thing is to like go now and literally grab other people to work with their shadow. That's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I think for me, part of it, not just energetically.
Wait, before we start, tell us what shadow work is.
Okay. So shadow work is pretty much getting down to the nitty gritty, the deep, dark, disgusting parts of yourself, the parts that you want to hide, the parts that you don't even want yourself to see, and especially not anyone else to see. They can be parts of us that are like rooted in us from past lives, past relationships, traumas, even, and remember, time's not linear. So let's think it's also generationally forward, taking an effect on us. Our family plays a role, our sexuality takes a role in it. All of these aspects of who we are going to play a role in our shadow self, the part that we do not want to see. I mean, like, we always like put out the best image of ourselves that we want the world to see. But when we start allowing the world to see what we don't want them to see, that's when they're kind of like, oh, they're real. They're doing it. Like, that's what I wish I could do. And I kind of think people need to flip that switch on, because shadow work, I always use this metaphor. When you walk in a room and it's dark, what's the first thing that you realize?
You can't see.
You can't see, right? But what do you need to do? You're like, oh, I want to flip that light on, right? I want to turn that on. So many people are flipping on that light without realizing that that room is dark. So many people are standing in that room knowing that they need that light, but not understanding that they needed the dark first. So to me, shadow work is understanding and being grateful for the need of the dark.
Let's take a deep breath on that.
Yeah.
And so now let us know, how did you get into it?
I was back home living with my parents, of course, going through the pandemic like anybody else, but also dealing with a lot of my own mental health issues, body issues, images, things that I had let sit back for way too long. And I think being back in my childhood bedroom around my parents again and around just where I grew up kind of triggered that healing growth for me, because it put me back in a place that should have felt safe, but felt so uncomfortable. And I had to sit as an adult and really like understand why that hurt me and why I couldn't realize that that hurt me. So as an adult, kind of taking a step back and being able to look at it from a spiritual perspective allowed me, I think there was lots of waves of healing within that, but I found a lot of forgiveness for my family, for myself, and the things that I had put myself through. And I think that once I understood how doing that paired with, mental health, like professionals within my own life, I was able to see that it was so much deeper than I had ever realized it. But it was also not talked about, not spoken about. And I had spoken to different therapists about it. And even just hearing me say shadow work, you could see they kind of would light up and be like, okay, like, we're opening up this field. I like this. And for me, I kind of wanted to be that person that could bridge the gap in between people having those conversations with those mental health professionals in their life, but also being that person that can help to start that conversation with themselves, with little tips and tricks and hacks that I was able to learn and to pick up along the way. It was a really hard part of learning and doing shadow work, finding what worked for me within my really busy day-to-day life. Like, I'm not just, a medium, a psychic, a professional within that world. Like, I am also working within the matrix, you know? So I needed to find that balance. And rather than see other people struggle through all aspects of shadow work and healing, I wanted to put that forward so it was one less thing they needed to worry about.
Mm. So the next question would be for me, what was your most vulnerable moment to show the world about your shadow work? Did that make sense?
Yeah. My most vulnerable moment.
Like when you was like, that's it, I'm ready to share what I've been experiencing.
I had gone through a breakup. Um, it was kind of a culmination of a friend breakup, and a romantic breakup. Very short, quick relationship, but it was very intense. And within that, I had reached out to somebody who was a healer who I had found on TikTok. So I was like, wow, this could be beneficial and influential. And I've seen how much it's helped me. And something just clicked in me. We had a bad experience. And I just remember pulling over my car on the side of the road, telling them to get out, and just driving away and not feeling bad about it. Cause it was just, I felt like I had taken a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I wasn't like looking backward. I was like, I feel different. I feel like I need to tell others what I have been feeling, what I have been going through, what I have been dealing with. I felt like, I don't know, my whole entire life, I've felt very alone, even though I've had multiple friend groups or I've had like things going on continuously. And I know how important and how influential people are to my overall goal, but it doesn't take away from sometimes feeling alone. So I was like, I need to put it out in the best way that I feel comfortable doing. And TikTok at the time was the perfect channel for that.
They are.
Every
It is.
everybody was there who felt the same way that I did. Everybody was looking for a little bit of healing and hope. And I was just wanting to be that person that was like, no bullshit, no caking it. Like, let's get deep down, let's get gross, let's deal with the shadow and let's deal with it now. So that way, when we're out of this mess, like we're all vibing, we're all
Right,
feeling
and we can
good.
all assist each other, which is the main
Right.
goal. I enjoy the fact that you are causing that ripple effect to wake people up, and I feel like even though in the short term and it may not look like we're getting anywhere when we are assisting people because we are dealing with centuries of generational trauma and we are helping them in the present time. So it does take some time, takes some steps to see it, but the fact that you're actually initiating it, I think that that's important.
Yeah, I think it was really hard for me because, again, coming up on TikTok a little bit, I made a lot of friends. I had been on a few talk things and podcasts and done some interviews with some people. And it kind of felt like we were building relationships. And then once they had gotten what they needed from me, they had fallen through. Or I would see friends of mine and their platforms build and grow and them talk about conversations that we would have at 3 a.m. And a part of me was like a little bitter, like, why not me? Why isn't that me? That's so obnoxious. That's so annoying. Like, I'm taking action. Why am I not getting that result? But then I remembered, like, I was a catalyst. My role is a lot bigger than just being that person with that following and that message, because I had multiple messages to give. So once again, I sat with myself and my shadow and my ego and dealt with that. I was like, oh, this is a lot bigger. This is huge. This is a lot bigger.
And now you see where you're at. Throwing numbers out there, you are like at 100,000 on TikTok. Like you have like a large following. You probably even further than that, right?
And yeah, I mean, I think I'm just like under 12K. I'm pretty sure. It's been a slow roll.
I'm over here throwing you up there. I probably psychic. You're already putting you out there, like.
Oh no, that's good.
Definitely have a.
We'll manifest that.
Yes. You definitely have a large following, which again really puts you in a space of bringing in that expertise, which is again that shadow work that you have going on, the oracles, as well as astrology and reiki. You want to tap into that as well? Because they
Yeah.
all fall in together. These are just categories, at least for myself as a healer, that we step into little by little. A lot of people would like to rush into being very spiritual, which you already are, so there's no rush to anywhere. But for the most part, it takes steps, right? And so adding the Reiki with the shadow work with the oracles and astrology, now we're in for a package.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, like I could do one thing. I could get really bad at it. Or I mean, I can get really good at it, but at the end of the day, I'm an air sign. Like I know I want to try and learn and do different things. Like I am forever going to be questioning, wanting to learn and better and move forward. So with that mentality and knowing that, again, so using astrology, right, as my roadmap, understanding who I am and why I act certain ways can kind of help me be okay, wearing multiple hats, spreading myself a little too thin. I know that I can find that balance, and I know that that's what works for me in my field, and that's what works for me energetically and spiritually. So, knowing that, I felt really comfortable going and learning all these different modalities because over the course of learning them, now I'm kind of incorporating all of them into my practice, and they're all beneficial. Now I might have always used them, but now I'm understanding why I'm using them. So again, astrology, I'm understanding who I am, even who my clients are, why they may have troubles with certain aspects of themselves. And if they bring something forward, a question that they want to, focus a reading on or focus a Reiki healing session on, well, now we have a little bit of a roadmap. Now we kind of have this like game plan. It's kind of like you don't want to go to a doctor and you don't want to get 100 different medications and say, well, we hope one of those works for you. We kind of have a map. We know what's going to work. And we just need to like gear that and cater that more to who you are.
Yeah.
So I've seen the benefit for me involving my spirituality, involving my astrology, involving my divination, involving my all this like healing work as well into my shadow work. Because personally, we get blocked. We're healers. We're dealing with so many other people. We want to rest at night. We are closing that door. We don't want to talk to spirit. We are walking past mirrors like this at 2 a.m. We don't want to, we block ourselves off. So when it's time to deal with our own healing, I feel like that's almost the most important part, because let's say I'm doing a lot of heavy astrology work with someone. I might not want to do shadow work with that this week. I might want to lean a little bit more towards divination because that's what's going to be more restful for me. And I have that option and availability to now because I didn't limit myself and because I want to continue to learn to grow. So if I'm feeling a little bit blocked and I ask my cards, like, what am I not seeing about my situation? Well, there we go. Now I have a little bit more of an answer. And I might say, oh, I'm not feeling creatively forward right now. Like, what could help me? Flip a few more cards. Interesting. Let's bring color into my life. Okay, cool. I have a coloring book. That's going to kind of help me in my subconscious
Oh no, don't bring the
start to
coloring book.
work
That's
more.
too childish. Don't bring the coloring book.
You got to bring the coloring book because when we think about shadow work, a lot of people blend that with inner child healing. And for me, I see them two completely separate. I see your shadow self and your inner child way different. A lot of people like to blend them together, and that is cool. Double up your work, kill two birds with one stone as best as you can. But for me, I'm going to focus on them separately.
And briefly, right? Inner child work, why separate?
Why separate? I just feel like the child needs that undivided attention. I don't know. For me, how I grew up, I'm a child of 4 in a big Italian, Puerto Rican, Catholic family. I want attention. My inner child needs that one-on-one.
And now with the shadow work, it could be many aspects coming at one time, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and like what's coming in my mind right now, which is more than likely spirit saying this, when it comes to your shadow work, it does include some of your inner child work, because obviously through psychology, we already know that the first 7 to 10 years of your life is what builds your core for the remaining part of your life. So yes, a lot of it does a lot of your shadow work does come from inner child, but we continue to add to the shadow work when we suppress our emotions and feelings. Go ahead, spirit.
That was a good one.
Right? That sure was nothing. So to wrap it up, because I know we may have a part 2, I'm gonna have you come back because I know we got a lot to talk about. All right, but for the most part, what tips do you like? All right. When it comes, I really like the shadow aspect, right? Because I know that people are scared to jump into that. Oh, wait, before we even get to the tips, this is how I work. I did wanted to ask you, when it came to, you said something about, y'all gonna give me 1 second. You said something about, you don't want to give it to me now. All right, let's go to the tips. It was gonna come back and I'm gonna be like, oh my God. All right, so the 3 tips that you can give us, it doesn't have to be the shadow work. I like it, but I can always call you for that. 3 tips that you would give someone on their healing journey starting today, right now.
First off, I would say don't limit yourself. Again, going back to trying out different modalities, try it out. It's something's going to stick for you. Again, there's all these different types of divination and different types of healings. One of them's going to resonate with you, right? Everybody has an individual journey. You do not need to follow somebody's journey to the T for you to be just as spiritual, just as awakened, just as aware, or just as aligned. Okay. Healing is individual. The journey is not linear. If you have your times when you're more spiritual, more dedicated, that is okay. Come in the highs and come in the lows, but keep at it. And if you feel like you get bored, maybe it's time to switch to something new, right? Maybe cards aren't the thing anymore. Maybe tarot's not the thing anymore. Try Oracle, try runes, try something else.
There's the leaf cuts. I mean,
Tea leaves. I love that.
Yeah, we're
Palm
gonna come back.
readings.
We're gonna come back and talk about the different types of divinations, because there's so many different types.
Oh my God, there's so much to talk about.
Y'all, there's no limit to your spiritual gifts. We all, and this is what I said in the podcast the other day, in the Pisces season podcast, like we're all in the space of igniting our spiritual gifts. It is up to you to step into it. And it's okay because we have free will. You don't have to do anything. It's a matter of, are you ready to declutter the old lessons to come into the new ones? But if you're in the space of always throwing out some type of complaint, maybe it's time for you to jump on some of these divinations so that you can be able to activate that gratitude.
Exactly.
So go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think another tip that I would have is honor your seasons, right? So not every season is going to be your spiritual season. Not every season is going to be where you are very, very active, right? I always think of it as planting your seeds, letting them grow, watering them, nurturing, and then harvesting, and then readying the soil for your next season. When you are, let's say, getting ready to invite newer energy into your space, you have to remember you need to ready the soil first. You need to plant the seeds first. You need to water them and watch them grow, and you need to let them grow. You need to harvest them when it's their time and understand that it's time to harvest them. If you right now are not in a harvesting season, you do not need to worry about that, because it will come. You will be harvesting what is meant for you. It's just not that season yet. And it doesn't make you less spiritual or less of a spiritual person or being or less of a healer if you are not in a season of healing. Yeah.
So, I got it. You know what it was? What allowed you to accept the process. There was something that you said, and you said, I learned how to, the confidence that you got when it came to the shadow work and things like that. I know, like, what allowed you to accept, all right, this is what I need to do.
I think for a lot of time, I was relying on other people to do the work for me. I think that I was understanding how emotional I was. I was understanding my reactions and my anger and how I responded to certain situations and people and triggers. But I was only understanding them. I wasn't doing anything about them. And that's what bothered me, is because I'm a doer. Like I need to do something. So once I kind of got out of my own way, because that's really what it was, I was blocking me. I was standing right in my way, allowing myself to just throw all of my trauma on other people. Once I was like, oh no, like it's me. Like I've been in my own way. I've been acknowledging why I'm the way I am, but I'm not doing anything about it. I was just ready to do something about it. It was just my time. It was that point, it was my time to start planting, start getting those seeds ready. My soil had been ready for a real long time. I just wasn't doing anything with it. And it was my time to do something.
Wow. Woo, child. So where can we find you again?
So you can find me on Instagram or on TikTok. Probably more on TikTok, to be quite honest.
Yes.
But you'll find me at Juju the Medium, JujuThemedium. There are a couple of fakes out there, so just beware of them. I will never be in your DMs asking you for money or saying that I've got readings coming for you. If you are looking for a reading, just reach out to me. Something that Spirit reached out and told me this year, because again, I was getting in my way. I was really working with a big poverty mindset and scarcity mindset. So this year, I am offering a full free year of readings. So until February 1st of next year, if you are looking for a reading, we do Oracle and whatever else Spirit wants to come through and pull on. Reach out to me on Instagram or on TikTok, because TikTok does allow DMs now. Again, at Juju the Medium.
All right. And I am super honored to have you here for the 2023 edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Definitely gonna bring you back for that divination podcast. And yeah, I mean, I'm honored and grateful for the talk itself. I'm a little bit like spaced out because when two spiritual people get together,
We're like, I know,
yeah,
and
and
the
they get
Aries and
into
the
the realm.
Gemini. Yeah. See, the astrology is coming in, and not to mention, and I did think about this when I saw the little calendar. It's 222, so we got lots of numerology and energy and creativity, spiritual fields opening up. Business was flourishing, so embrace today and embrace its energy.
Yes. Oh man, honored and grateful, and I appreciate you for taking time out of your day to just come on Wisdom Wednesday and share some of the beautiful expertise, plus your own personal journey that got you to help others.
It was really exciting. I'm so stoked. It was so fun to do this, and we're definitely doing it again. We're going to get in depth about divination, because there is a whole lot more we need to talk about, and we've got a whole lot more we need to say.
Yes. All right, y'all. You already know what to do. Share, comment, subscribe, do whatever it is that you need to do to stay connected with us. I appreciate you. And until next time, stay healthy.